get you. And now we're live.
There we go.
All right.
I'm so excited.
And as people are rolling in, I just want to thank everyone for joining us for DEMOFEST up until this point. And especially those that are tuning in, thank you for joining our session, the end of the live demonstration and the rise of the influencer, consultant, advisor, coach, and video creator role with Don Carmichael. My name is Manny Corlew, and I'm the community manager at Consensus, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. DEMOFEST is presented by Consensus. Consensus is intelligent demo automation software that helps scale pre-sales with interactive video demos. You can learn more at consensus.com or view the automated micro demo at the link on the Docs tab on the right of your screen. Consensus is proud to put on this event for free. However, we would like to invite each of you to donate to our company's humanitarian organizations if you would like to. You can learn more about this and donate by visiting the DEMOFEST Gives Back booth in our virtual expo hall in the Booths tab or at the link on the Docs tab on the right of your screen. We also have a community that exists beyond DEMOFEST. Our DEMOFEST community is on Discord. Our community is where you can be connected with other speakers. You can get exclusive access to content and events, and where the conversation long after DEMOFEST is over will continue. We encourage all attendees to join us and so many others. You can join us at the link in the Docs tab. We encourage everyone during today's session to participate with us. On the right side of your console, you can see a few ways to engage with us throughout the session. The chat function will allow you to engage with us as well as other attendees. Throughout this session, you will see a couple of polls. We encourage you to participate as your feedback is important to us. Our speaker will take questions from the audience at the end of the session, but we encourage you to ask questions at any time through the Q&A box. And if at any point you are having technical difficulties, you can head to the gear on the bottom of your screen. And there you'll see a help document to help troubleshoot some common issues. And now for my favorite part, I want to introduce to you all, I would consider a friend and a leader in the pre-sales space. Don Carmichael is a pre-sales coach, trainer, a keynote speaker, and the founder and chief pre-sales evangelist at Winning Skills. After 30 years of pre-sales, of a 30-year pre-sales career, including heading EMEA pre-sales enablement at both SAP and Oracle, Don founded Winning Skills to elevate pre-sales skill set and to take the profession and craft forward as buyer enablers. Don has taught pre-sales skills at Adobe, Deloitte, SurveyMonkey, Sage, Freshwork, Concur, and many, many others. Don is also the co-host of Two Pre-Sales in a Pod podcast series. He has his own hashtag on LinkedIn, hashtag pre-sales by Don Carmichael, and regularly contributes to web events. And with that, I turn my time over to you, Don. Thank you so much, and I'm excited to get your share going.
Thank you so much, Manny. That was absolutely brilliant. Let me just get my screen shared so we can get into the session. And bingo. Well, bingo for me, is it? It's taken its time to load. Okay. Anyway, right. So, so the end of live demos. So before anyone gets too scared about this, I'm not talking about the fact that there's going to be no demos in the future. That'd be horrific. I'd get drummed out of the profession immediately. It's just one particular type of demo. I'm going to go into the rationale and reasons for it. So first of all, thank you so much to Manny for the introduction there. And thank you so much to Consensus. I can't believe this is the 4th year of DEMOFEST, and it's a huge privilege that I've had the opportunity to present on every single one of them. Thank you very much indeed. Oh, and by the way, and of course, I'm a very, very big, massive Consensus fan. So the first thing I want to do is I want to say hello to our new washing machine. Well, I mean, actually, I haven't actually bought it yet. I'm still thinking about it. But I do know it's going to be a high-end washing machine. I know it's going to be AI-driven, and it's probably going to be a leader in the Magic Quadrant for clothes washing experience platforms. Gartner, if that doesn't exist, there you go, help yourself. So this is going to be one impressive washing machine. But let's come back to that a little bit later. Okay. The main points I want to make in this presentation is that for most enterprise tech companies, we're trapped in this idea that the culmination of the pre-sales effort is a live closing demo or a proof of concept, preferably in person. I know obviously that everything went virtual in kind of lockdown, and a lot of it still is, but talking to people right across the world, you'd be amazed how many people are straight back in there, trying to do in-person presentations. And, it's a people-to-people thing that we do. So, so preferably in person, where we can show off our practice presentation skills using our hands. Okay, so it's a closing demo. So this is where all the key stakeholders are present, or are they? Where we successfully overcome all objections, where we get agreement from all of the key decision makers, we gain the technical win, and sales can take over the commercials and closing with a guaranteed close win, quota retired, revenue targets met, happy days. Okay, that's what that's what we're trying to kind of architect. That's what we're trying to funnel people into in a lot of companies, and what you mean by a closing demo. Now, I'll bet for many of you, you've got the following distinct stages in your Salesforce or HubSpot CRM, something do RFP, do discovery, and then do demo. It's burned into the kind of CRM process that you do things in that order. Very good friend, Rob Dean, says pre-sales used to be the masters of the mid-funnel because it was all about do discovery, do demo, and that was it. But the reality is different. The truth is B2B buying journey is messy, confusing, and it looks like a drop plate of spaghetti. I'm pretty sure most of you have seen this Gartner image before. I think I saw it twice in yesterday's DEMOFEST sessions. So I'm thinking of you, Adam, for one of them. The point here with this is you don't have to read all this. The point is nothing is linear. There are reversals, there's new stakeholders emerge at random points, and much of the buying journey and even who the actual decision makers are, it can be hidden from us. It's a big, huge mess, modern buying journeys. So in this presentation, I want to make kind of 3 arguments and then come to a conclusion at the end of those 3 arguments. And that is the first one: live demos don't close enterprise deals. Shock horror, but they don't. It's focusing on risk mitigation, value, and outcomes that actually closes deals. In fact, live demos used for closing can actually be pretty dangerous, because you could be introducing new ideas, new fears, which we've got to be very careful about in the Jolt effect. Check that book out about that. And new decision makers could come in just at this point when you want to create a sense of optimism, a sense of stability at the end of a sales process. You want to have focus, safety, certainty, and you definitely want to create inertia towards gaining commitment and starting the project. Okay, so I'm making the argument here that live demos don't do that. It's a focus on risk mitigation and value and outcomes. We'll come back to that. And again, please don't mistake what I'm saying. Demos are hugely important. Buyers do want demos, but they want them self-service, shareable, and much, much earlier in the buying journey. So please don't mistake what I'm saying. Demos are hugely important and influential, but buyers want to access and consume the demos when and where they want. So I'm guessing most of you are on board with this. I mean, you're attending a Consensus event. Okay, Consensus created a demo automation tech segment, and much of the pre-sales tech segment is all about trying to create self-service and shareable demo experiences. So this is important. Demos are important. Gong say this. There's loads of research. Yeah, it's super important. And then thirdly, new buyers are bringing their consumer behaviors to B2B tech buying, and that's clashing with our legacy tech sales processes. And I'm going to show you that hopefully slightly humorously. I'm actually going to show you that how that actually happens. So new tech buyers absolutely suck at B2B buying. I mean, we've just heard Garen there, Garen's keynote about, buyer enablement. It's our role, or the buyer enablement coach's role, is to teach them how to buy, to, give them the tools, overcome the objections, anticipate everything before they need it. But new tech buyers absolutely suck at B2B buying, which is a problem for us. They just assume, a lot of them, they can buy in exactly the same way they can buy in a consumer world. And it creates a huge clash between how we want to sell as tech companies and how buyers want to buy. And we'll see that in a minute when we get back to the washing machine. So you'll have noticed in a James Bond style, I haven't even introduced who I am. And although Manny said some great stuff, I just wanted to add some stuff on top of that. So my journey to, because I should have a value proposition as well, shouldn't I? Which is, why should you listen to me? So as Manny has said, some of this starting at the bottom left, it's actually 35 years now in the pre-sales profession. And I think I've ticked them all off. Tech, SMEs, value-added resellers. I've definitely been in a startup, and of course, eventually in the big gorillas in the tech industry. And my original, I used to have an industry focus, which was manufacturing and supply chains. And I even managed to get myself a master's degree in manufacturing management, and a fact good that was in the UK, since we don't do very much manufacturing. And the key bit, I think, that really changed a lot of my mind was that for 8 years of my career, I was head of pre-sales development for EMEA at both SAP and Oracle. That's for organizations that are, certainly at the beginning of SAP and definitely Oracle, over 1,000 pre-sales people. So that's a very tough thing to be looking at, enablement, but also kind of operations and compensation, quotas, that kind of thing. So as Manny said, in 2015, I wanted to give something back to this profession I love. So I started my own pre-sales enablement company, Winning Skills, and we do workshops, sessions, lunch and learns, keynotes, and I'm passionate about the future of our crafts and profession as we evolve into buyer enablement. I'm also privileged, as you can see in there, I've got a relationship with Consensus. I'm privileged to be an advisor to them. And I'm also, top news, I'm a shareholder at Avnio, who do AI RFPs. And they've just been bought by Lupio, which is all very exciting if at all you're into RFPs. And you can see some of the kind of customers I've got: Adobe, SurveyMonkey, Encino, Sage, Concur, Deloitte. There's quite a lot of them. I'm also prolific, or is that horrific, podcaster. So I co-host 2 pre-sales in a pod with Adam Freeman, Mark Green, who've both certainly presented earlier at Consensus, at DEMOFEST. And I have a solo side project, which is away from the boy band, called the Future of Pre-Sales podcast. So, and they're all available for free wherever you normally get your podcasts from. And I also have to thank Consensus, because they've kindly given our company a virtual booth for the duration of DEMOFEST. Thank you, Consensus. Just click on booth, which is on the top navigation bar, and scroll down, in my case, to Don Carmichael of Winning Skills. We've got downloads, links to free resources, and my Future of Pre-Sales podcast. And I'll be in the chat room for about an hour after the end of this session if you want to continue the chat. But let's start by telling a story of what I want. There you go. What I want, in massive, great big letters. What am I trying to do? So we think we need a new washing machine. But particularly the reason I'm looking at a new washing machine is partly that I've got some clothes that have specialist care and washing instructions. And in my case, I've got a new cashmere sweater. Yes, thank you. I do look good in it. Yep. And I need this sweater to keep looking good after each wash. That sweater was an expensive purchase. But if you really asked me about why I bought a cashmere sweater, it's because I want to up my game. I want to look good for date night. Okay. And, you have to invest in your long-term relationships these days. Don't take your partner for granted. Yeah. So, make sure you look good. So that's all part of the value proposition of why I want, I'm looking at a new washing machine. In fact, if I plotted it, so I'm going to use a tool that we use, which is called a value discovery map. Starting from the bottom left-hand side, we talk about things called functional pains, which is, in this case, different features and capabilities of the washing machine. So in my case, can it wash cashmere and keep it looking good? And that feeds into a value, an outcome, a definition of success. How would you measure that you've actually done that properly? So I need the cashmere sweater to look good, wash after wash. It was a big investment, and that's how I'll measure success. And my KBR, key business requirement, if you want to call it that, is I want to look good for date night, which contributes to my corporate goal or strategy of maintaining a long-term relationship. Now, if you look at the left-hand side of this diagram, you'll see I've separated this value hierarchy into a what and a why. So, and this is a version of Simon Sinek's Start With Why. Effectively, functional pains are what you're going to buy, because the answer to the functional pains is usually features and function, technology. It's the thing you're going to buy. But value and outcomes and their contribution to key business requirements and corporate goal is why the buyer is going to buy. So it's not what you're going to buy, it's why you're going to buy, which turns out, as we shall find out a few times in this presentation, is way more important than what it is that you're going to buy. So, and this tool is a way of plotting discovery and the internet connections between value propositions and strategic goals. It's just, in this case, I've used it for buying a washing machine. And this is just my part of the value discovery map. And you'll see it looks like it's kind of like an org chart, and there's a good reason for that. I could equally plot separate functional pains, value outcomes, and key business requirements for other members of the family who are stakeholders in buying this washing machine. Hopefully you get an idea of how this maps into kind of corporate enterprise world. And there's another thing I can do with this, which is once I've plotted out this value discovery map, I can create a thing, a short value story arc is what it's called. So we can start from the bottom and work our way up, or do the opposite. But I'll start from the bottom. Here's the story might be, I need a top-end washing machine that's capable of repeatedly washing specialist fabrics, because I need my expensive cashmere sweater to be regularly cleaned so that I can look good on date night, thus contributing to preserving my long-term relationship. In the world of buyer enablement, we've just come off a keynote with Garen talking about it, the author and inventor, I think, of this new world. These value story arcs are hugely powerful because you can hand over ownership of them to your internal buyer champion, who can use them for selling up and down the buyer's organization on your behalf. So value discovery maps are also magic because they can automatically generate short demo scripts, as in this thing over on the right hand side. So if you were going to demonstrate your washing machine to me, you can connect corporate goals to key business requirements, to value outcomes, to functional pains, which are essentially features and functions of an operating washing machine. So the thing on the right hand side, preview, view, review, looks a bit like tell, show, tell, doesn't really matter. It's a demo chunk. It's, hopefully something that only takes like 6 or 7 minutes to do. But one of the magic things with a value discovery map is how you can map the key business requirement, value outcome, and functional pains, and it actually writes demo scripts for you. I'll come back to that a little bit later on, but imagine that. So let's say I was going to demonstrate the washing machine to someone. I could say, look, you want to look your best for date night, which is my key business requirement. And that means that you need to keep your cashmere sweater looking new, which is your definition of success and outcome. So you want to see that can this washing machine cope with cashmere delicate wash cycles, which is what I'm going to show you. Okay, that's the value justification for me showing you some features and functions. And I come back out of that once I've finished that, and I would say, look, I've just showed you that we could do delicate wash cycles because you need it to keep your cashmere sweater looking new. And then I'd offer you some social proof, which is, and of course, you're not the only person who wanted this. We have many customers, and here's a couple of them who can testify that they've got cashmere clothing, and it still looks new even a year later. Okay, so I'm hoping you're kind of like looking at that and mapping that out to go, ooh, could I actually use that myself? But stop. In fact, it even says stop. Let's stop there. Now, you might be thinking, Don, what have you been smoking? So I don't smoke, so so I'm not going to answer that question. So washing machines are business to consumer. Business to business is very different. So I get that. Okay, I know you're going to say that. I know you've probably been complaining about it already. So I get that. You're right. Enterprise complex sales can mean you're dealing with complex buying teams, multicultural organizations, organizational politics, many things. It's much more complicated. But what we're seeing with most, and especially new or inexperienced B2B tech buyers, is that they still seem to be approaching B2B buying in the same way that they buy B2C. And they're getting frustrated because we put all these obstacles and gates in the way of them researching, educating for themselves, and especially buying. The fluidity is missing. And then some of that's because we're using a legacy enterprise sales process that just doesn't fit in this new world. We haven't adapted to how buyers want to buy. It's kind of self-inflicted, but it's risky to change, of course, to change the way that we sell, but things have changed and we need to adapt to that. But I'm going to put a but here, because I talk to a lot of kind of pre-sales leaders who are, selling into very different kind of markets. If you talk to those who are successfully selling to the largest enterprises, so, big global organizations, you boil it down and ask them something like, what two things does it take? What is technology sales? What does it boil down to? Two things. And they will tell you, by the way, B2C is not equal to that. They'll tell you this. It's about two things. It's about reducing risk, but never write anything down. You always want a positive. So the opposite of reducing risk is obviously increasing your risk mitigation, and it's about increasing outcomes. So reducing risk by increasing risk mitigation strategies, and outcomes, of course, the benefits, the value, the returns, definition of success. And of course, that's also mixed with very personal value propositions that different people who are stakeholders will, different personal ideas of what, why they would make a decision. And people also have fear of career-ending mistakes. Will I get fired if I make that decision? And there's a natural human behavior of avoiding making decisions in the first place. I think that's also discussed in the Jolt Effect book. And it's also about the world of consensus decision making. And we saw in Garen's keynote, they're talking about, what was it, between 11 and 16 decision makers are now involved in an average B2B technology sale. That's a huge number. And you will never get to find out who all these people are either. There's, hidden influencers and decision makers. And one thing to note, though, I asked them to say, give me two things that are convinced, what is it you're actually talking about to close sales, close technology sales? It doesn't say demo in there at all. It's about, demo is something that it's happened, but you're not talking about it at the end. You're talking about risk mitigation. How can I reduce the risk? How can I create optimism that we're actually going to be able to deliver, and discussing the outcomes? How can I improve the success? How can I key what's successful into what you want from this? So going back to what we said before, there is number one, live demos don't close enterprise deals. It's focusing on risk mitigation, value and outcomes that close deals. And by the way, so I was inside Discord a little bit earlier, and I put up actually a topic in there. Was it unpopular? There's an unpopular opinion section. And there was a couple of people who answered my unpopular opinion, that live demos don't close deals, with actually saying, yeah, you're right. Somebody talked about an RFP and that they're answering, it doesn't involve a demo at all. It's all about a discussion, presumably, about risk mitigation, value and outcomes. So that means for pre-sales, we have to focus on like a different set of skills then. If it's not so much about demoing, we'll actually come back to this a little bit later, because some of us in pre-sales are going to have to get much better at demoing. But for what happens at the end of the sales cycle, it's about discovery skills. It's about advising, consulting, some form of educating, but definitely influencing people, and definitely coaching. We've heard of, buyer enablement coaching as a role. And we need to be better at building trust and rapport, and being able to do that, through social, through video. Okay. So let's have a look. So we've talked about, I've talked about the background to buying this washing machine. Let's have a little bit of fun then. So for a bit of fun, let's see what happens when I attempt to buy using my business to consumer thinking, and it hits the B2B sales process. Okay. Let's see what it feels like buying from a traditional enterprise tech company. Now, probably 95% of enterprise tech companies will give buyers the same experience. We'll talk a little bit again about this a little later. And while you watch this next section, I want you to think about a challenge that my good friend and podcast co-host Adam Freeman gives to anybody in our profession, which is, Adam says, would you buy the way you sell? And if not, why not? So be thinking of that as you watch this next section. Okay. So let's get started. Here we go. I think I need a new washing machine, but I'm not sure. I've got questions. I've got fears. I don't want to make a mistake. This is an expensive purchase. So like every other buyer, I'm happy to do lots of research. I'm happy to educate myself. In fact, it's well understood that about 2/3 of any buyer journey is done before they engage with a salesperson. As buyers, we're allergic to being sold to. There's lots of research pointing to many B2B enterprise tech buyers preferring a purely digital sales journey where they don't have to speak to any salespeople. Ouch. There's a counter argument to that, which is some people look at some technology and say, well, it can't be sold without a salesperson's guidance. So I think we're at loggerheads with some of the ways that our sales processes. We've got, buyers who don't want to be sold to, but we have to be able to sell to them. So that needs resolving. So what I would do, so the first thing I do is, well, of course, I'll go and check YouTube. We'd all do that, wouldn't we? Let's go and have a look at some videos. And I start having a look at some advice, because remember, I'm in business to consumer world, looking at washing machines. Looks a good video. So I'm starting to ask questions, which washer is best? And there's some good tip things there. One of them's quite recent, 6 months ago, one from 6 years ago. So let's go even further. I'm finding that actually there are videos out there about using a washing machine specifically with cashmere. So this is actually pretty good, really. And of course, I've checked with friends, like you do. I've checked social networks, and I've even asked review sites, okay, which is the best washing machine that I need. I'm even down with the kids. Someone my age shouldn't do that. I'm even down with the kids and asked Chat GPT. I said, what's the best washing machine for cashmere sweater? And it gave me, as you'd expect, a plausible answer, but not really what I wanted, typical. So interestingly, I really struggled to find any real videos from the shortlisted, because I've now shortlisted 1 or 2 washing machines. I'm struggling to find any videos from these shortlisted washing machine manufacturers. Anyway, for now, I've done my research. I've shortlisted a couple of washing machines, but I've still got questions. This is a big purchase. Everyone in the family, my extended family, has got opinions on this. It's time to reach out to a vendor. It's time to put my hand up and say, okay, I know you're going to have to do some selling, but I need questions. So I'm going to have to give something away to get answers to those questions. But for now, just want to summarize it. Buyers do want demos. I watch demos on YouTube, videos. Videos are probably best. I want demos, but I want them to be self-service. They need to be shareable, because I want to show other people, kind of go, oh, have you seen this? This looks pretty good. What's your opinion on this? And I need them much, much earlier in the buying journey. In fact, I need some of these videos at this kind of marketing anonymous stage where I don't even have to kind of put my hand up and say I'm in the market for buying a washing machine. Okay. So here we go. Hold your nose. Right. So top of my short list is the Appliance R Us Sudsmatic 10,000 washing machine. What an incredible name. So I go to their website. I want advice. I've got questions. I need to know whether I'm going to make the right decision. Now, unfortunately, it looks like the only way I can ask questions is by booking a demo. Top right-hand side, request a demo. It's the scourge of our industry. But by the way, just I'll come out of a roll slightly. There are actually starting to be quite a few pre-sales teams who, what they're doing is it's like talk to an expert instead of request a demo. And there's some really good examples of that. Redgate Software, who I worked with recently, you can actually book time with a pre-sales person from the website. Now, you might immediately be horrified by that and go, oh my God, surely, because Redgate, they have hundreds of thousands of customers. So, surely these pre-sales people are inundated, but they're not. What actually happens is the people who want to talk to them are actually fairly well down the purchasing, the buying journey, and are actually having, very valuable conversations. So, if it's not something you've done, have a think about doing it. There's some very positive effects. I mean, most of the time I would not click that button, request a demo, because I know what's going to happen next, and we all do. Yeah. I mean, I'm no spring chicken, but we know what's going to happen next. A business development rep is going to make contact with me. So I do click, but somewhat surprisingly, Appliance RS actually have an integrated scheduling tool. So I can actually pick a time to have a chat with them. That's pretty good, isn't it? This one's Chili Piper. Other scheduling tools are available. So our company, we use Calendly. So like a lamb to the slaughter, book a demo. Okay, by the way, as well, I'm trademarking that Sudsbot chatbot. So just in case there's any washing machine companies that got any ideas. By the way, as well, did you notice on the chatbot on the bottom right-hand side, you're always going to talk to sales. There's no way out of it. There's no way to just talk to an expert. They've got you any way that they can. And most chatbots are exactly the same. Okay, so, so I've done the right thing. I've kind of arranged a call, and I'm now on a call with Samantha from Appliance RS. And she wants to do some discovery before we can chat. So apparently I can't just ask my questions. She's got some discovery questions that she wants to ask me. I'm a helpful person, so I'll go with this. Okay, what questions have you got? So the first one, incredibly, Samantha starts by asking me if I can actually afford a Sudsmatic 10,000 washing machine. She said, they're a premium model, don't you? I mean, do I must look like I can't afford it. She also asked me if I'll be the one buying the washing machine or if someone else needs to approve the purchase. And actually, that is a good question because, the family members are involved in this. But it seems she's happy with my answers. And then Samantha then starts asking me about my need. And I had to ask, what do you mean by that as a need? I said, are you actually asking me how much dirty washing I have? And apparently she is. So unbelievably, and you can see the clash here. I can't believe I'm getting asked this kind of stuff. Unbelievably, Samantha is starting to lose enthusiasm with our discussion. And at this stage, I'm in danger of getting qualified out. I'm immensely frustrated with this. I just wanted to ask a few questions. And amazingly, my dirty washing pile isn't big enough. I don't have a big enough need. So desperately, because I still want to get through this so I can ask more questions, I desperately search around and find a bigger pile of washing. And there it is. So Samantha, she sounds a bit more positive now. Apparently now I have a big enough need. I can't believe I have to do this. Amazingly, I feel like I'm having to sell to her. And remember, I'm only going through this because I've got questions and I want to talk to an expert. It's immensely frustrating. And finally, here's the kicker. Samantha asks, how soon do you need to buy a washing machine? And when I splutter, I'm saying, are you genuinely asking me how many days clean clothes I've got left? Yeah, I mean, Samantha wants to know if we have a compelling need. Is there an urgency to this potential purchase? So apparently I have to pass the test because I've only got one clean shirt and one pair of socks left. By the way, this is the clean version. When I did the draft version of this, there was also some underpants involved, but I've saved you from that. So thank you. I'll take your thanks. So I've passed the test because I've got urgency in wanting to buy. So I can't believe this is happening. So at this point, apparently I've now passed Samantha's Appliance RS pre-qualification and now I'm permitted help with my purchase. So remember, I only wanted to ask some questions. Now, amazingly, Samantha now insists that I have to watch a demo. Remember, I didn't ask to watch a demo. I genuinely thought what I needed to see, I've got everything I needed through YouTube and through the reviews that I'd read. I'd gone through all this qualification because I thought it was going to earn me the right to talk to an expert. So far, I've talked about a big pile of washing that needs to be done. You've seen it. And my urgency about only having one pair of socks left. And Samantha, if you think about this, she doesn't even know that the real reason behind all this is the cashmere sweater. Basically, she hasn't done any real discovery yet. Yeah, all she's found is that there's a big pile of washing. And here it comes. Guess what the demo is? Well, you probably didn't guess it. Never mind. Okay. It's how the Appliances RS Sudsmatic 10,000 washing machine washes clean towels, they're already clean, that have been washed 142 times already. It's a straight features and functions Harbour demo. There's no challenge here. The towels were already clean before we started. There's nothing that can go wrong with the demo. Samantha knows that, and she's feeling confident. And I still haven't had the chance to speak to an expert. No one has explored why I really want a high-end washing machine, and I don't feel listened to. So stop. I like this. Can I just stop it? Stop. Right. Hopefully, if you know anything about sales methodologies and pre-qualification, you'll have noticed what I did there was that I've just been qualified using BANT, which is budget, authority, need, and timing. So even though BANT was invented by IBM in the 1950s to qualify out unworthy leads, it's still widely popular in tech companies because it's simple and user-friendly for sales development reps and inside sales. Now, typically, BANT only works right at the beginning of a sales cycle, and probably the majority of tech companies and most of you out there are using some version of MEDDIC, for continual qualification through the sales journey. But back to the washing machine, we just need to think about what just happened there. Samantha seemed really happy to show me how to wash clean towels. I mean, everyone is telling us that, that buyers want to see demos, which is true. I mean, there's loads of gong research on this, that the top thing buyers want to see is they want to see a demo. But, I'm making a point here. It's about the timing of it, okay, and what it is that you're demoing. So I'm really worried about this. She's just shown me these clean towels. In our discussion, we talked about my need to wash a big pile of mixed washing, and I still think it's risky washing cashmere. We haven't got anywhere near that yet. I think we might even, I mean, this is now getting so risky, we might even need to see the washing machine in action washing my cashmere sweater. And of course, if you think about it, let's think about the enterprise world. That's one way that proof of concepts start, isn't it? Risk is that I can't mitigate the risk as early as possible. And that risk is still there. And the only way of overcoming it is to actually show me it working. So the point here is that either the wrong kind of demo or a wrongly timed demo can actually put the whole buying journey backwards. I was already further along the buying journey than Samantha expected. I genuinely only had a few questions left before I was ready to buy. And then the roadblock was I was subjected to how they wanted to sell. Okay. And don't think this hasn't got anything to do with us, because we're probably the ones who built the demo. Okay. But I'll come to what our contribution to all this and how we can make things a bit better in a minute. But let's go back to these kind of 3 points, which I will eventually reach a conclusion on. So new buyers are bringing their consumer behaviors to B2B tech buying, and that's clashing with our legacy tech sales processes. Hopefully you agree with all this. I'm not quite watching all of the chat just yet because I'm trying to concentrate on this, but hopefully there's a lot of chat about this, and maybe you're disagreeing, maybe you're agreeing. That's good. Before I wanted to go on, I just wanted to kind of not leave you just hanging like that, but just show that the tools, we were talking about things like value discovery maps. Just make sure that I'm leaving you with the understanding that these really do work in an enterprise setting. So let's quickly meet a company called Alliance Care. And this is one we use quite a lot. It's mostly real except for the corporate goal. So stop talking about washing machines for a while. Let's see if the discovery map we saw before still works in enterprise software. So essentially what we've got here is the bottom left-hand side is, remember, that's features and functionals that overcome a functional pain. Then it goes up to value and outcome. What's the definition of success? How will you measure that we've actually achieved the goals, all the way through into customer success, that we've actually achieved the goals we set out to do. And then that feeding into, a key business requirement. So if I explain it, the corporate goal for Alliance Care is they want to double revenue in the next 5 years, but their VP of finance has been tasked by the board, has been given a key business requirement of making sure that this doubling of revenue doesn't mean the doubling costs. And if we dig into this, this is actually a classic kind of digitalization project, kind of like contracts, digitizing contracts and workflows. So Augusta needs to prevent growth adding to the workforce. She's been tasked with that by the board, okay, because they want revenue to grow, but the costs to not grow as much. So the difference being profit, EBITDA, before EBITDA and all that kind of thing. So Nicole, who works for Augusta, she's got a manager role, and her interpretation or how she's got been tasked with this preventing growth adding to the workforce is for her department. They have this problem. They process manual documents, and currently it takes them 10 days, and they need to get it down to 6 days. If you get it down to 6 days, that will be the value. That will provide the value, and that will provide the outcome, the definition of success that can feed up into this key business requirement. So when we did discovery, if you go down one level to, well, what's stopping you doing that yourself? In the case of Neeraj, which is the first one on the left-hand side, functional pain. In Neeraj's case, he couldn't reconcile documents between proposals in different languages. So if we've got features and functions that can overcome that, we can do this, which is we can say, right, so if we can overcome and uniquely overcome these reconcile the documents between proposals in different languages, if we can give you the functionality, contract management, and workflow systems to do that, we believe that will then contribute to reducing your manual document processing time from 10 days to 6 days. That was what you were looking for, wasn't it, Nicole? And of course, that contributes Augusta to preventing growth adding to the workforce, and that contributes to the corporate goal. So in doing that, that's called a value story arc, and that's something in the buyer enablement world that I would give to our internal champion, to use as a sales tool within the organization. Okay, and again, we saw that this, cleverly, it maps to creating chunks of demonstrations. So remember, I said tell, show, tell, doesn't matter. Preview, view, review, same kind of thing. So preview maps to the key business requirement. You need to prevent growth adding to the workforce, and the way you're going to measure that is you want manual document times processing to be reduced from 10 days to 6 days. And what's stopping you doing that is that you can't reconcile documents between proposals in different languages. So if we can show our unique ability to do that for you, which is the view part, we can come to review and say, okay, that's, in showing you that's how you're going to reduce from 10 days to 6 days your manual documents. And let's introduce some social proof there. And of course, you're not the only people doing this. If I tell you about another customer of ours who's doing something very similar, and let's have a look at the outcomes that they got, which would be in line with what you'd be expecting. Okay, so hopefully, not about washing machines, it still works in the enterprise space. Now, let's go back to this idea that we funnel everything through a closing demo, because again, I've got a touch point that goes back to what Garen was talking about earlier, the reality of demoing to Alliance Care. So let me show you what actually happened by using an org chart, and why closing demos and the idea of closing demos just don't work anymore. So this is what happened when we tried to demo to Alliance Care. So first of all, we've got ourselves a champion, which is Ian Hansen. So that's the green box that I've just highlighted. I'll read out the names for you, and it could be quite a small font for you. So Ian's our champion. So in the spirit of buyer enablement, we've been enabling, coaching, and educating Ian to sell on our behalf internally. So we know Ian quite well. So look who else has turned up for the demo. So on the left-hand side, we've got Augusta, who's got the key business requirement, which is brilliant. And we've got Amy. So Amy is one of the two people who had the functional pains that we were talking about. Don't know why, but oddly, we seem to have Ben, who's an engineering director, and Julia, who's a product manager. I mean, all good. Maybe we can upsell to them as well. But it turns out that we're missing some people. There are some important stakeholders. There's Alan, who's VP of Technology, nowhere to be seen. The Calais, who seems to be an important influencer in this, is nowhere to be seen. We haven't even contacted them. And then it gets worse, which is Nicole. And if you remember, Nicole is the manager. She's the person who owns the value and the outcomes. Unfortunately, she's had to take a day off to look after a sick family member. And if that wasn't enough, guess what we find out in the meeting? They start mentioning somebody called Anne. We've never heard of Anne before. Yeah, Anne turns out to be an independent board advisor. We don't even know her surname. She's highly influential in this deal. And then we'll find out later that Anne is a huge detractor. She's a negative sentiment about us. Basically, she hates us. That's what the problem is. So the point is, this is what most modern buying journeys are turning into. It's messy. It's trying to funnel everything to a final close or a POC. It's not working anymore. Okay. And just while I've got time, just one little top tip about the value discovery map to help you architecting value messages and creating demos. One of the things that's really interesting about when you use this in kind of real life is that you can actually quite easily separate out the what part from the why part. So the what part is what the client needs to buy. So it's what they're going to pay for. It's the very specific features and functions. So it's not a big menu of here's a load of stuff. It's very specifically this, because these are the only features and functions that satisfy the functional pain. Okay, but you can clearly separate that out from the why. So the why is the client going to buy it? So that's the value, the outcomes, the risk mitigation, and the client's unique value story arc. So what's interesting, having worked on a lot of these discovery maps, is how predictable the what part is. In fact, it turns out if you've got a catalog of short videos of just your standard features and functions, you can easily glue specific selections of these standard features and functions into a talk track where you make it unique by talking about the client's exact value and outcome, key business requirements, and link to the corporate goal. Is that these things to create as kind of videos is actually a lot easier than you think. Yeah, because it's like Lego. You just glue things together and you can separate them out. So, and by the way, if you want proof that value discovery maps work, here's a quote from Contentful. They've got a value discovery maps helped a senior SE achieve a 94% win rate in a single quarter because they just looked at their deals in a completely different way that they didn't before. So let's pull all this together, because there's a lot of stuff going on there with washing machines and things, but let's pull it together as in, what does this actually mean for us? And there you go. What does this all mean for us? So this is conclusions time. So the future of our role, I think, is moving away from demos as events, and especially as closing events. And buyers, they still want demos, and they still want demos with architected value propositions built into them that also talk about the risk mitigation and outcomes. But they want and expect these demos earlier in the buying journey. So how do we respond to this in pre-sales? So I think the first thing is this. Recommendation one: if you haven't already, you need to split your pre-sales team into two. So you're going to have one team that are advisors, influencers, consultant team, and separately create a creative team who are going to build demo videos and buyer enablement content. And I know some of you, I'm talking to you, have already done this. So the creative team are going to work closely with product management, probably, and marketing probably. And no significant functionality gets released until the self-service content, videos, whatever the content, tours, that kind of thing, and videos have been built and published. And they help product management connect functionality to outcomes, value propositions, and business requirements. The creative team are, to use a rugby analogy we use in the international rugby in the UK, they're starters. They're the first people on the field of play. As a buyer, you'll meet them and their content first in your buying journey, even hopefully in the anonymous kind of self-research, awareness, education, marketing funnel part. The creative team are essential to scaling pre-sales influence and building pipeline. They're putting content into this kind of massive funnel, the early parts of the sales process, in fact, the early parts of the marketing process. And now, if you're a pre-sales leader charged with doing more with less, I think that's all of you, you absolutely need to separate out this content team. They will make you much more efficient and impactful and allow you to influence and accelerate more of the funnel. Now, the advisory team, if you want to call them that, are the finishers. Okay, so buyers will meet them a lot later in their buying journey, and they're all about things like industry knowledge, use cases, deep discovery. They're very credible, building rapport, got people skills. They're about advising and consulting. They're handling these risk mitigation and outcomes discussions. Okay, they've got access to this social proof that will truly close deals and get the win. So I think that's a simplistic way of looking at it. You've got starters who kind of like creating content that's drawing people in, influencing people to come to you, and kind of finishers who can spend more time with companies, winning individuals, getting them over the line, especially about this, it's about risk mitigation and outcomes. It's not about demos anymore. So this should be fairly obvious to you then. So if you're a consensus customer, this will be absolutely no surprise. As soon as you can, okay, my recommendations are dramatically increase the rate you publish demos and buyer enablement content out onto the web, social, anywhere buyers would expect or want to find it. And if you're going to be clever about this, of course, consensus demo boards. If you can convince marketing, try and make sure at least some of your content isn't gated. So gated, I mean, you don't have to put an email address in first, because that puts people off. You saw me being somewhat put off by that. Make sure it's the right kind of videos, though, not just arbiters, feature functions, and FAQs. And connect value propositions and outcomes, corporate goals. Tell value story arcs built from case studies, and make sure you include the social proof. Who else is doing this? What outcomes do they get? And by the way, that's a marker for the difference between, a proper case study, which includes a value proposition and outcome, and the ones that I 95% normally see, which don't have any of that. That will mean that your buyers will be better educated, more engaged, further along their buying journey when you actually get to meet them. You'll dramatically improve the quality of your funnel. Marketing and biz dev will be happy because you'll make their MQ marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads numbers look much better. Okay, you're helping that early part of it, and it'll feel weird. It'll feel different. If you're kind of still locked into this, but we just get measured by demos that actually happen in the sales process. The world's changed. We have to adapt to it. And because buyers are better educated and self-qualifying, you'll be doing less demos, okay, and POCs, to the point that you may rarely have to actually do a live demo anymore. You'll be spending more time doing discovery, architecting value propositions, and reducing risk and increasing outcomes. Remember, that's what closes the deals. And eventually, you'll be able to increase your capacity, influence better qualified deals, and improve your revenue per employee figures dramatically without having to recruit lots of new people. So let's go back to the washing machine. So I just wanted to kind of finish with this lesson from the washing machine. What is it I'm supposed to remember from this? So let's go back to the washing machine. The lesson of the washing machine is that unless a buyer is only ever going to wash clean towels, it's a frustrating and fruitless demo. Much better if I'd already found out for myself a demo that tackles real world issues, mixed washing loads and the tricky subject of washing cashmere sweaters. So let buyers educate themselves, and we can be more successful meeting them later in their kind of buying journey. And there we go. Thank you very much. There's a QR code on there. You can jump into the booths, and Manny, I'm wondering if there's some Q&A questions.
Yeah, there's some Q&A. You had me reevaluating. I'm about to buy a house soon, and I have to get a washing machine, so I hope I don't get hit with those kinds of questions. But for Q&A right now, the first question comes in from Shahab. How would you suggest we handle buyers who are unsure of what their buyer process is?
Oh, right. That's classic buyer enablement is coaching them and saying, well, okay, this is how it's done in other companies that we work with. Could you model that within your company? So you can coach people on how to buy, and that actually happens a lot more than you think as well. People just don't know how to go about doing it. Remember, a lot of these people, like I said, they're new to it. They've got no idea how to do it. They don't know that you're going to have to, at some point go through a security review. They don't know that at some point procurement are going to have to get involved, and of course, most salespeople absolutely dread having to talk to anyone in procurement, and will put it off until the very last thing. They don't know the contract negotiations. They probably don't know any of this. So, it's our opportunity in the buyer enablement world to coach them on this is typically what's going to happen on the journey, to gain in the outcomes that you want. I hope that answers it.
Well said. Next question from Brian. Any tips on how to measure revenue contribution, attribution of the demo creatives, video makers, the ones removed from the actual named opportunity engagement?
Yeah, I actually think yesterday Adam Freeman, my good my good buddy and podcast co-founder, I think he actually some of his figures actually addressed all of that, because that's a challenge I think he faces himself for his organization. So some of this is going to have to be kind of a little bit creative. I mean, some of the answers to this are really interesting. There's tech companies out there where they've actually moved all these creatives and put them in marketing, because they know how to measure all this kind of stuff, because that's what they do all the time. So I thought that was a creative way of actually solving it. But you're gonna have to borrow some measures from marketing to do this. That's going to be the answer. If it's still under your remit to measure these people, it's going to be how often are these demos consumed, things like dwell time, and a lot of social media kind of statistics are applicable in there as well. And then there's a thing called the big challenge is what's called the attribution problem, which is if you've got some videos out there in kind of like, let's say, YouTube land or something, and you can't measure what happens to it next, or it takes such a long time for someone to actually enact what you've advised them to do in that. The problem is that you can't attribute the two things together and say that deal or that potential revenue is connected to the fact that we put this content out there 6 months ago. So I get that that's a challenge, but I would look to marketing, because they tend to have got this solved, especially when you look at the size of their marketing budgets. And by the way, the marketing, what's the marketing joke? Was it, I know 50% of my budget, my marketing budget's wasted. The problem is I don't know which 50%. It's a classic. You've probably heard it before.
And the last one, looking at time, if this is from Rob, if you own the demo loaded into consensus, you can. I think that was an answer. I'm going to go ahead and finish.
You can't. So, by the way, you can in consensus. You can track it. That is an answer. Yeah. Was that Mr. Rob Dean?
Yeah, that's Rob.
Hey, Rob, how you doing, sir? Yep.
Well,
what Rob said.
I'm gonna go through a couple housekeeping things as we continue for today, and then if anyone else has any other questions, the conversation doesn't stop. Don has his own forum on Discord. You can ask any questions you couldn't get to today, and we'll continue from there. I want to remind everyone that our DemoFest game is continuing, where each session you attend, each session feedback that you provide, there is a survey that you get points, and there's some awesome prizes to win. So please fill out the feedback survey. Also, we're glad to be bringing DemoFest back out on the road this year with DemoFest X. We had a great time in San Francisco in March, and we can't wait to bring the event to Dublin, London, and New York City later this year. You can register and join us at any of these events at demofest.com, which is also at the link in the docs tab on the right of the screen. And then we want to also encourage you to stop by the expo hall to visit our premier partners at DemoFest. I just want to remind everyone that there is no transfer of money involved in this event. So all of our partners are going above and beyond to contribute to make this event as successful as possible for you all. And then I just want to go back again and thank you, Don, for just taking the time to share with us the end of live demonstrations and the rise of influencers, consultants, advisors, coaches, and video creator roles. This was incredibly insightful, and there was a lot of knowledge shared. I also love that you were able to draw us all in. We all wash clothes, hopefully. So I want to let everyone know that up on the screen are the sessions that are coming up, and you will automatically be pushed to the next session in your track. And you can switch tracks at any time in sessions by toggling the agendas tab on the top left of your screen. Thank you, Don. Looks like we have a minute left. If anyone has any other questions, you can pop them in the chat right now, or we'll just call it from here. Let's see. Don, are you in the market for a new washing machine now? Are you gonna put that out?
I am actually. Yeah, that's kind of where the idea started. Yeah, I don't think I'll buy one without AI in it, but there you go.
Without sensing the load and all of that.
Oh, actually, I think they all do that these days. They're very, very clever modern day washing machines. They really are. They kind of weigh it and then work out how long they're going to run. So yeah, very clever.
I'm excited for the day when people realize the future of washing is probably by hand. Clothes have never smelled as fresh.
Oh, there's Adam. You had me in a spin this afternoon. Way. Very good. Very good. That's a better punchline than I had. Thank you.
It's like, what do you do now when you do everything you're supposed to do? You just tap your fingers. But I thank you so much, Don. Honestly, this was amazing. I look forward to connecting with you in Discord.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. Thank you. I think we're out.